Hey, you geeks! Guess whose shelf trophy arrived this week? It's so pretty. Yeah, okay. Awesome timing with the delivery there, Dragonsteel. Thank you very much. Some non-spoiler thoughts about this book, okay, I didn't realize that while Dusk is on the home world of First of the Sun, the pages are white, but then once they go into the Emberdark, they're black, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Gosh, I said gosh. And like the art is so pretty. I mean, like, I knew that before, but like, it's shiny.
Shiny, soak it in, 'cause it's the last you'll ever see.
I love it. So wait a second. This is a misprint. Okay, so she's right side up, but the page is upside down. Okay. Well, I'm not getting rid of this. If I get lucky to have Sanderson sign it, I'll totally will. But yeah, I just got this. I love it. Okay. Unless you're weird like me, I hope all of your artwork came right side up. But if it didn't, I think that's pretty neat to top all that off. Now that the glorious shelf trophy has arrived, we can talk spoilers. Since I reread the book between my non-spoiler review and now, I assume all of you guys have a job where you can just read an entire Cosmere book in a weekend and are all caught up and can dive straight on into my spoiler breakdown with me. If not, well, you can come, but don't say I didn't warn you. I will do my good old standby of characters, world building, magic system, and plot total breakdown of Isles of the Emberdark by Brandon Sanderson. Dusk. So when I first met Dusk in Sixth of Dusk, the novella, I didn't realize how much of a devoted bird dad Sanderson himself is. So returning to meet Dusk here, where the birds are a much bigger part of the story, because for like a third of the book or more, those are all the characters Dusk has to interact with, Sanderson's bird dad streak is really showing in a way that almost distracts me, because I can imagine Sanderson himself saying things like this, not just one of his characters, but I don't think that's going to be off-putting to like the average reader. Rather, I think the bird interaction was a great way for Sanderson to have Dusk's kind of task completion plotline in Act 2 of the story feel like it was developing character in a way that most D&D problem-solving escapades don't. And I do think it was clever of Sanderson to kill off Cokerly as a motivating force to get Dusk off planet, while also providing him with Rua, the scaredy bird that Dusk needed to coax into becoming a true trapper's bird. And all those dynamics are what keep Dusk's otherwise kind of solo scenes feeling like they're full of meaningful character interaction, because they are. In other ways, Dusk is very different from any other character that Sanderson has written before, because through Dusk, Sanderson finally finds an oral history tradition worth trusting. This coming from the guy who had written and used as a major twist the concept that words written on steel are the only ones who could be trusted. Now, historians, and Sanderson as a storyteller, love to mess with the idea of untrustworthy history. And I really love that Sanderson uses Dusk to grapple with the modern snobbery that, oh, we have it in writing, therefore it must be trustworthy. Yeah, Dusk has a great point. Just because it's written down doesn't mean it's true. Please see the internet or Canticle for Leibowitz for further details. Of course, this is Sanderson, so while Dusk's history and cultural knowledge of investiture as myth is trustworthy, it's also incomplete. That is why he needs Starling to provide her Dragon University knowledge so that they can band together and defeat the Dark Quara in the end. I do appreciate that Dusk cannot come to truly face the monster himself until he's hit rock bottom, of course, and had to talk to his ancestors. Alright, fine, I'll lay off the Moana parallels. For now. Starling. But I'm still gonna take a bite or two from other low-hanging fruit. For example, Starling, they could take the sky from her, and it occurs to me that Jedis in fact do wear brown coats. Ain't that interesting? I was actually surprised when the final act came and it was revealed that Starling's story is not going to be about her getting her wings back. She's not Clarence. She's more of like a fallen angel, exiled alien character. But unlike other aliens exiled into Polynesian cultures, she's got nothing to prove to the council who exiled her.
This is my family. I found it all on my own.
She doesn't need to justify herself to them to prove to herself that she is worthy, although she does seek Hoyd's approval because he is, of course, her Jedi Master. On a different note, the romanticities are totally wearing off on me because now I kind of ship Naz and Starling as a couple. After all, she is a star girl, he is a dead guy. Could it be any more obvious? She teases him about his hair, and he has long, flowing locks, of course. And they talk about how long they've been friends, and he's been through it all with her, and he's dark and brooding and deadly, and she's just the pocket full of sunshine. Like, I would not mind if we even got, like, ketchup level spiciness between those two in future cosmere entries. For right now, we're at like a ranch level spicy, but I want more. The crew et al. Now, this may sound odd, but bear with me. Isles of the Emberdark is probably one of the most biblically imaginative books I've read from Sanderson. Like, there's the Polynesian culture and the star stuff all there, but also Dusk literally is described as walking on water. And the sleepless, like, I'm now convinced that Sanderson in Sunday school at some point was staring at a beetle while his teacher was talking about 1 Corinthians 12:12. We are many parts, but we are all one body. At least I hope it was the actual Bible verse and not the Marty Haugen song, because Marty Haugen's song, like the Sleepless themselves, sometimes make me want to vomit. In fact, how many times I've regretted reading this book while eating dinner was like every single dinner I read this book all the time. The rest of the crew of the dynamic storyteller's incredible conveyance were thoroughly charming. I would expect nothing less from Sanderson, and I got it. What surprised me the most was Zeetzi, who, although was a bit on the nose in his discussions with Starling about his dislike of the Sleepless, okay, fine. I was impressed that when Sanderson wrote crest of feathers on Zeetzi's head, he really meant what we would describe today, or at least I would, as a mohawk. And I find that mohawk wearing starship people, like Severo, tend to be the most dirty and vicious kind of people, and I used that trope myself when writing a story last June instead of posting any videos. So I'm impressed to see Sanderson reverse a trope that I didn't know I had fully embraced myself. Speaking of family, Hoyd, we found out, got married and had twins, and his wife is still alive, but she doesn't remember that they were married. Like, whoa, Sanderson, just dangling some theory bait out there for us, aren't ya? I will bite, not this video, because if here's the whole of the plot, this is the most offshooting of tangents ever. I will avoid it for now. Another headcanon, which I think is slightly more plot and thematically relevant, is that Xysis is totally played by Samuel Jackson, right? And he has a purple lightsaber. This, I believe, is fact. It also doesn't hurt my cause that Dejair, or Dager, as the audiobook narrator called him, has a breathing problem that he has to wear tubes on his nose to fix. The problem came about from burns earned in battle. Like, come on. Not that I minded a single bit. Like, Dusk and Starling had all of their own internal turmoils to work out for themselves. All they really needed was just a morally black villain against which they could unite and conquer together to really get the story moving. And it fits, it ships, I like it. World building. Conveying Polynesian culture, Sanderson has gone on the record as saying he had to de-Moanify this story, which I do appreciate because I'm me and draw connections to pop culture all the time. And frankly, when Dusk describes seeing the Helican souls on the other side of the cognitive realm and described them as fish hooks, I totally saw Maui's fishhook first thing. Only midway through my reread did I realize that the symbol in the cosmere for First of the Sun, which is a cool looking bird wing, also doubles as a fishhook and is probably what Dusk actually saw, which makes sense for their cosmere symbol. Now, while I think that Sanderson does a great job of paying homage respectfully to the Polynesian culture, not that it's my say-so, but I don't think he's offended anyone, he still can't quite convey what shore life is like, and he avoids that in this book, at least, by going out into not water, where he can describe wave and science-y things without the inconvenience of getting wet. I kind of think it's funny. And Sanderson really seems to be playing with the idea of what makes a good fantasy name and what doesn't, worm paste, or the other fancy word that I should know at this point. Not to mention, it almost feels like some names are just jokes or riffing off of things. Like the scientist named Ruen had me literally pausing the book to go check the spelling to make sure a shard wasn't popping up again here, because that just made no sense. And Dejair is the dangerous villain, of course, and Starling is a star princess, and Dusk has been told to go find his shooting star. Like, these are all pretty on the nose, I think, and it's okay because the story is just a fun ride. One of the best names of this story has to be the name of the spaceship, the dynamic storyteller's incredible conveyance. It is not, in fact, bigger on the inside. I enjoy how Sanderson goes out of his way to say how tiny and cramped it is interiorly. I approve. Yet all of that insistence that Hoyd is in no way medically trained or a doctor only pushes me further with the Lone Star parallel when Leonore herself calls the dynamic a cargo van with wings. I can't. Then later, the intensifier shows up, and Sanderson may have crafted his own special name for this device. Some may call it brilliant, others stupid or on the nose, yet I can recognize a laser-type implement when I see one. If light can be amplified by stimulated emissions of radiation, then it follows that investiture can too. So technically, this should be called an EASer, because at the end of the day, both light and investiture are waves. Or are they particles? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, or go watch my video on the topic, or do both. Like, I'm having fun with this, Sanderson is too. I hope you enjoy it. Magic system. The most magical aspect of the world building, it would have to be the giant snake and the cave. Which, when I put it that way, I gotta wonder, did Sanderson's beta readers, not warn him about that connotation? Or have I just been reading too many romantasy books? I have to imagine that someone warned him about this and he left it in. So, taking a step back from romantasy and going to the lens of Space Odyssey, I realize, wait a minute. This is a cave where Dusk must come to face with his subconscious fears and projections of magic of some sort. And then I realized that maybe this is Sanderson just fixing one of George Lucas's biggest and only problem in The Empire Strikes Back.
What's in there?
Only what you take with you.
Though I must say, Sanderson leading us to the conclusion that this was all just a magical cave projected by ambition or autonomy's investiture was a bit dodgy. Like, the first time, I was just so confused about how that sign ended up there, and sure, investiture, mental projection, cognitive realm, that, I bought it because I know from other books that that's how that realm works, but upon rereading, I did find the foreshadowing and explanation of things are bound here by the perception of the people that they're bound to, and that, these plants really shouldn't be growing here. There's water here that shouldn't be here. I noticed those details the first time, and I definitely thought something was weird, but they weren't exactly pointing me to this is all a sign from Autonomy/Patchy for Dusk's spirit quest. Then when we finally got to the chapter where Dusk is like, I need more time to figure this stuff out, lo and behold, at the end of the tunnel is a giant sign giving him more time.
A sign. A sign. I asked for a sign, and here it is.
I just hope that Sanderson uses this book as a stepping stone to refigure out how to describe how beings of pure investiture are bound to a certain space or form. For now, it's only really used at the end to solve Vathi's diplomatic issue with, to paraphrase Theodore Roosevelt, she will now walk softly and carry a big snake. Yes, I know that sounds weird. Moving on. Plot. Now, I've been joking about Sanderson reinventing Star Wars and the Cosmere and Moana and Lilo and Stitch, but if there's anything Disney reboots and nauseating sequels have shown to me these past few years, is that it is so hard to reinvent old stories well, that the fact that Sanderson and Tollywood to a certain extent are doing this pleases me greatly. It's hard to tell an old story a new way, and Sanderson keeps on finding ways to do it, and I approve. This story of Isles of the Emberdark is completely new, but it's made up of all good old standby parts, even if Sanderson uses those parts by flipping them on their heads. The biggest underlying part that I identify in this story was one of my old standby theories for how the theme of justice would be treated in Wind and Truth. And that is by riffing off of the film Mutiny on the Bounty from 1935. Yet when Wind and Truth didn't quite do it for me, I was quite pleased to see Emberdark begin with Captain Crow and Starling, her lieutenant, sounding a lot like the captain and his mate on the Bounty.
I wave my own with seamen. They respect but one law, the law of fear, and it will be well for my officers to remember.
Wind and Truth went off on its own direction, which I've dealt with thoroughly on this channel, but it never quite hit that discussion of justice and truth that sounds so Sandersonian in the monologue of the condemned mutineer in the English Navy trial at the end of the film, which this speech is like perfection, really.
Let us choose to do our duty willingly. Not the choice of a slave, but the choice of free Englishmen. If one man among you believed that, one man, he could command the fleets of England.
Now, I will admit that the idea highlighted in this monologue is kind of at the heart of every single one of Brandon Sanderson's stories. It's an idea that I love and will never get tired of rehearing told in new and interesting ways. But sometimes a little extra details to ground home the point wouldn't hurt. And we don't really see those details until, like, Trust of the Emerald Sea, where they mutiny. And then again in Isles of the Emberdark, where they mutiny. Though, as historically accurate as Isles of the Emberdark is, the dynamic is a merchant, not a military vessel. So, as extra history points out, that's not really a big deal provided you can make up the debt in some way, which is what Starling goes on to do. I'm still holding to the interpretation that Sanderson is riffing off this idea and improving the near-perfect scene from 1935's Mutiny on the Bounty because of the line the British Admiral tells Captain Bligh.
In my opinion, your open boat voyage was the most remarkable conduct of navigation in the history of the sea.
He is a British admiral. Of course he's going to overlook the fact that Polynesian wayfinders did that same voyage long before, and they didn't even at any point in their lives have access to modern map making or contemporary map making of the British Navy at the time. So seeing Sanderson homage that history within Emberdark back to Bounty, in my mind at least, all the red lines are coming together, and it's a beautiful pattern collage that I love that supports the underlying theory of this book, or thesis I should say, to have faith in people and inspire them. Push from the rear, not charge out in front. Oh gosh, whenever I'm having a hard day, a Sanderson book can always just pick me back up again, and it makes me happy on so many levels that it's just so nice to see Sando back in this one. It really is. I certainly hope we will run into the crew, at least, of the Dynamic Storyteller's Incredible Conveyance in future books, at least so I can get an update on Naz and Starling's relationship, because Sanderson might need to develop those two in order to get that whole Cylodin ship to actually sail like he seems to want to. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you want to see more. See you next week. Bye!